Hey guys, it's Angel. Welcome back to my kitchen. So Mid-Autumn Festival is coming up and that means it is mooncake season. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make mooncakes at home. I'm going to be filling mine with taro filling, a homemade taro filling, along with some salted duck eggs, but you can also use other fillings as well. And in this video recipe, I'm really trying to simplify it so that you guys can do this at home if you want to. So with that, let's get started, shall we? All right, now the first thing we'll need is our mooncake filling. So I actually prepared this taro filling that I have right here last night, and you can do this the night before or in advance. I highly recommend that because you'll want it to chill in the fridge. It'll be easier to handle when we make the mooncakes. So for this taro filling, you will want 1 piece of taro, which we'll cut up into cubes. I got this at the store and it was pretty much peeled on the outside. You can also buy a whole taro and peel it yourself, but mine came pre-peeled. We'll just need about 1 cup of taro cubed, and then I boiled that for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now you wanna make sure your taro cubes are super soft and they're cooked because you don't wanna eat the taro raw, it's not good for you. And one of the ways you can make sure it's done is just take a chopstick, poke right through it, and if it goes through completely, very easily, then it's done. Next, I scooped up the taro, put it into a serving bowl, added 2 tablespoons of cane sugar for the sweetener, and also a tablespoon or 2 of water. Now you can also use coconut milk, full fat coconut milk, and if you do use full fat coconut milk, make sure to shake it. And finally, a pinch or 2 of salt. Then what I recommend you do is take a rice cooker paddle here and mash the taro up into a paste. Now when you mash it up, it doesn't have to be perfectly all mashed and mixed in like a puree. Just make sure to mash it so that the majority of the chunks are kind of worked out and it's more like a paste. Also, once you put it in the fridge to chill, it will become thicker, so just keep that in mind. And for those of you who do like something different, like red bean as a filling or lotus bean paste, you can buy red bean filling at the store. The red bean paste is super cheap and inexpensive. It's just a few dollars for a bag if you don't want to go through all the hassle of making the taro paste. In addition to the taro paste, we'll also need some salted duck eggs, salted duck egg yolks. And I have a package of cooked salted duck egg yolks here. And I just found this in my local Asian grocery store in the refrigerated section. Now for the mooncake skin, the ingredients are actually kind of simple. We need some all-purpose flour, and I'll leave the ratios and the measurements in the video description. We will also need some vegetable oil or another neutral flavored oil, some sweetener, and I recommend using Lyle's golden syrup. And this is a partially inverted refiner's syrup. It has an interesting smell to it. It's kind of like a dark, almost like a maple syrup smoky smell. You could use honey or maple syrup, but I really recommend using the golden syrup here. That'll give your mooncakes a nice golden crust. And in addition to that, oh, and if you do want to know, I found this on Amazon. I'll post a link in the video description below. It came in a 2-pack. In addition, we'll need some lye water. Now the lye water also helps with the browning as well and helps with the mooncake skin. Now you could buy it, and I didn't want to buy it because it just seemed so silly when I can make it myself. And how I made this was I took 1 cup of water and I boiled this with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and I boiled that for 5 minutes. After I boiled it, I let it cool in this jar and then I put it in the fridge. So those are basically the 4 ingredients that we'll need for the mooncake skin. So I'm gonna put the paste and the egg yolks back in the fridge and we'll get started on making the mooncake skins. And sorry, things might look a little bit different in the kitchen and with the video because I'm filming myself today. So we're just gonna start with the flour. We'll need 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, and you should sift yours technically. And I have a sifter, but I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just gonna use my chopsticks and just sift it like that. That's the pro tip of the day. So we'll need 1½ cups of all-purpose flour. I'm just gonna level it off with my chopstick. You can also do it with the back of the knife. And try to be exact with these measurements because we are baking, and baking is usually less forgiving when it comes to recipes. So next, there's 1 teaspoon of lye water. So I'm just going to measure out 1 teaspoon here. 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And of course, I need to get my tablespoon. I'll be back. Okay, yay, I found this one. This is one of my favorite tablespoons. It's in a heart shape. So we will do the oil first. So 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Next, 9 tablespoons of golden syrup. And I'm glad we put the oil in this first. It'll just make it easier to pour out the sticky syrup. All right, so now we're just gonna mix this together. Highly recommend using a rice paddle here and just give that a nice mix. Be careful not to overmix here. We just literally want to mix and ensure all the ingredients are spread out through the dough. And when you're done, the dough should look like this. Now I'm just going to put the dough in the freezer so it'll be easier to handle when we roll it out. But if you wanted, you could also do this the night before and leave it in your fridge overnight. While that's in the freezer, I want to talk about the mooncake molds that I got. So you will need mooncake molds. I got 2 different types and I'll show you the pros and cons of each. The first one that I got is this wooden one, and this is like a traditional mooncake mold. I saw 2 problems with this one. This one was going to be really hard to get the mooncakes out versus the plunger type. And second of all, these are super tiny. I don't know if you can see them, but it's just really small and I wanted bigger mooncakes. But I will post a link in the video description as well if you want to check that out. I think these would be good for silver skin mooncakes or little mochi ice cream type treats. Now the type that I do recommend is this plastic plunger type mooncake mold, and this came in circle shapes and also square shapes. And how it works is it has a little tile that you pick, so you can pick the different types of designs. And once you put that tile in the plunger, you can just plunge down, and that's how you get your mooncakes out easily. So now I'm going to get my area set up and we can start making mooncakes. Oh, and also at this time, it's a good idea to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So the first thing I'll do is put a little bit of flour, and we'll want to make our taro balls first because that's the taro filling. So I'm just going to do 1 with salted duck egg and make these little balls here. Now I'm just going to press, and I'm going to make 2, and we'll take a salted duck egg, put 1 in the center, and then take the taro filling like a sandwich and close that up and roll it into a ball, just like that. Now I'll set this aside and I'll do a couple more. Now if you want to be perfect in making these super consistent in terms of size, I would totally weigh them out, but I'm just casually making mooncakes. Now these last 2, I'm just going to make plain taro only, so I'm not going to put an egg in these. A little variety. Next, let's roll the mooncake dough. Just like the taro filling, I'm going to also roll out 2 balls. Now with a rolling pin, roll the dough into thin circle shapes. It doesn't have to be exact. Some people like the dough super thin, but I actually like the taste of the crust, so I like to make my mooncake skins a bit thicker. After rolling out 2, put a taro ball in the center, make a sandwich, and top with the other half. Close and remove any excess outer dough by pinching the pieces away. Then roll into a smooth ball using the palm of your hands. Next, take some flour and add a light coat inside the mooncake mold. Put the dough inside and press firmly to stamp the mooncake onto a baking sheet. And that's it. Just repeat these steps with the remaining dough and filling. And here, halfway through, I'm realizing my dough is too soft when stamping the 3rd mooncake. And as you can see, it's much easier to work with the dough when it's chilled. And based on how this is rolling out, I probably should have made the dough the night before. And that, guys, is what happens when you don't chill your mooncake dough properly. It'll flake and start to crumble, and yeah. So I had to take a break. I put my mooncake dough in the freezer, so I'm just gonna take a break before I stamp those out. But yeah, that is what it looks like, unfortunately. and those will be mine to eat. And right before they go in the oven, I'm spraying the tops with some water to prevent caking on top, which is pretty common. After spraying, quickly put them in the oven to cook for about 6 minutes or until the outer crust looks dry so we can add our egg wash. Now we're gonna let these cool before we put the egg wash on. And to make the egg wash, we're just going to use 1 egg and beat that together with 1 tablespoon of water. And just to make sure my egg wash is super smooth, I'm going to run it through a strainer. And just in case you're wondering, the mooncakes will develop a more golden skin the next day. Now back in the oven. While your mooncakes are baking, watch them carefully and turn down the heat if you need to a little bit. I turned mine down because I have a gas oven that kind of gets hotter over time. I turned mine down from 350 to about 325-ish. So let's go check on our mooncakes. All right, so the mooncakes are done. I'm going to let them cool. You definitely want to let them cool as much as you can before you cut them or consume them. Now don't freak out if your mooncakes are kind of cracking on the top. That's totally okay because they will self-heal. I know that sounds weird, but once they cool, what'll happen is that the oils from inside the pastry will come to the outer skin of the mooncakes, and it'll just make it so that everything softens back up and kind of glues itself together. So that's why I call it self-healing mooncake crust. And to prove this point, they've been cooling for a few minutes. So you can see that the cracking has gone down and they've started to self-heal. And that, guys, is my easy mooncake recipe. Now I'm going to do the taste test, but because the salted duck egg ones are hot, I'm going to just taste test the ones that I made yesterday, which are the taro ones. So here we go. So if you guys like taro, the filling is like a classic sweetened taro. It's very, very delicious. The outside definitely has that sweet but slightly bitter taste of the mooncake skin. I guess that's how I would describe it. It's kind of mapley, kind of caramelized tasting. And I actually tried this on day 1, and I think they taste better on the 2nd day. So highly recommend that if you guys make this recipe, you let them cool completely. Then you can put them in an airtight container and store them in the fridge. The skin will soften up and it'll kind of absorb all those flavors. Got mooncake all over me. Very good. I'm Angel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's mooncake recipe, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And as my grandpa would say, sharing a meal with a fascinating stranger is one of life's true delights. So until we can share some mooncake together, take care. I love you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Maybe we'll share some mooncake together virtually. Bye.